Well, the big new beautiful bill is now the big new beautiful law, and some of you might be wondering what it means to you. Well, the biggest thing as far as us as California homeowners is that we now have a deduction up to $40,000 for interest payments and for property taxes. That was capped in the old tax law at $10,000. Because it was capped, many of us took a standard deduction. But now, with that higher limit, there's a good chance you might be doing a little more work on your taxes come 2026. But it's probably going to be worth it. The other item I want to talk about is home appreciation. Home appreciation is slowing down, and some of you might be concerned. But we still expect 2 to 3% in this particular market, our market, Sacramento, El Dorado, Placer counties. And that's about half of what it was in 2023 when it was 6%. But on average, we appreciated around 4% a year. So 2 to 3% is not a bad appreciation number. The thing that's really interesting that you might consider is that if you've owned your home for 15 years or more, that 1 out of 4 homeowners were underwater in their home 15 short years ago in 2010. And now it's less than 1% of the nation. So home equity has been improving consistently, and with people owning their homes longer, and many of you with 2, 3, 4% loans, you're holding on to them. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of people we helped this month, because you know I always like to tell you stories about borrowers. The first I'm going to tell you about is a client who came to me because she was in a very contentious divorce. She was fortunate. She was going to be able to continue to hold her own home, but she had to pay out part of the equity of that home to her soon-to-be ex-spouse. We were able to provide the documents and the information necessary so that both attorneys could arm wrestle and come to a proper solution that would work for all parties. And that allowed them to not go to court. It also allowed us to complete a refinance transaction to where she now owns the home by herself and is able to stay in the home that she's lived in for a long time. The other client I'd like to tell you about is a couple that thought they could never buy their own home. They were in their 40s, but they had 3 kids, and they just got a notice that said that they had to vacate because the rental that they were living in was going to be sold. You know, we did an analysis of their situation, showed them that they could in fact buy a home, and with a gift from parents, they are now proud homeowners. And I just talked to them this past weekend because they've been in the home a couple of weeks, and they're absolutely thrilled with their new home. So these are just a couple stories, but I think it's important that I share with you these stories so that you can appreciate that every person's situation, like yours, is unique. Last thing I'll close on is just a thought about a veteran that we were able to help this month. This veteran had used his GI Bill 15 years ago, maybe 20. But the point is, in his mind, he was done with VA because, after all, he'd already used it. That's a misconception. It's a myth. Every VA can clear his entitlement when he sells his home that has a VA loan on it, and he can use it again. VA is a benefit, and it's there for the veteran as long as the veteran's alive. Well, that's pretty much a recap of June. I hope you enjoy these monthly reports.